Welcome back to the Columbus, Ohio Real Estate Market Update. I'm Ryan Dieter with Key Realty, here to share with you the April 2025 numbers. But I have seen a stat that I haven't seen in my career as we leave the spring market and as we start heading into the summer market, as we shift here as Memorial Day approaches and the weekend, that I often say, hey, this is the kind of the pseudo summer to spring market cutoff. And so I was going to see that. I've seen some numbers that I've not seen in my career. So if you want to know what that is, stay tuned. But before we dive into that, if you haven't liked or subscribed to this page, please do. Leave a comment. Love to hear what you're thinking about this, if this is useful for you. Often I don't know. It's just kind of throwing these out there, hoping that people are watching and this is useful. I hear from you guys down the road. If you see me, please share with me if this stuff's useful. It helps me understand if this is worth producing for you guys and what data you guys like to hear. But with that said, let's dive into the numbers. All right, thanks again for tuning in and joining us. As you can see here, this is the stats that the Columbus board puts out for us. You have access to this website yourself. It's free to the public as well on their website. Just go to columbusrealtors.com and you can find it there. But let's dive into the numbers here. As we've been seeing throughout the last few months, and if you've been watching these videos, we're noticing definitely slower growth than we have in the last few years. And I've been really harping on this idea that, the location matters. We're getting back to the fundamentals where your location, condition, and market timing are going to be a huge factor. You can't just put houses on the MLS anymore and expect them to sell. And we're seeing more negotiations take place. We are seeing buyers have more advantages than we've seen in the past. But with that said, we are still in a seller's market. When we look at the numbers, we're still showing that it's a seller's market. Values are going up and houses are still selling for near close to the list price, and a good house is still flying off the shelf. It's the houses that need work. It's the houses that, are that middle road where they're priced a little high, but they still need work. They're priced like they don't, but they do. Those are the ones that aren't selling. And they aren't selling quick, and there are negotiations happening, and buyers are getting them down. Sellers are, kind of what's going on. But we're seeing this. We're seeing, because the prices are up, interest rates are up, and so is the cost of labor is up. So all those things are a factor, and buyers know that. Buyers know obviously that interest rates are up. They also know that prices are up. Those are obvious, but they've caught on that construction and cost of labor is way up too. So to buy a house that needs a lot of work costs a lot of money now, and it's actually still more affordable to update your current house. People are still doing things like that. So to buy a house, when you have a 2% interest on it, and then you could afford to do the repairs to what you need versus buying something that has 8 and then still need to do updates, that is a hard pill to swallow for buyers right now. So keep that in mind if you're looking to sell, that the more work you can do before you sell it, the better off you're going to be. The more likely you are to sell, the more likely you are to get top dollar for it. So those are factors you need to take into consideration. So with that said, that's kind of what we've been seeing, a recap of the last few months, and it's still happening today. But April, we've seen a little of anomaly than we've seen in the last few years. So if you noticed this pattern we've seen, you can see this pattern. I just jump down to this graph here because this is kind of the first thing. If you wanted to know one piece of data about Columbus, this is the most important thing in my opinion, is the ebb and flow. That's why I say the fundamentals of Columbus market is location, that's any market, condition, that's any market, but market timing. Now, any market has, its own market timing, but understanding Columbus's market timing is so critical. I had a client this year that sold their house bought a new house in the winter months and then sold their house in the spring months. And they were rewarded for it. They got, negotiations, they got 50K off the offer price in negotiations, and they were able to get top dollar for their house. And so they got, they actually traded their house for about the same price, but got a bigger house in a better school district for the same price. Unfortunately, the interest rate was higher. That's something they had to deal with, but that's just, the reality of this market. But you're willing to do that. If you're willing to play the game right and take these things into consideration, you can be rewarded for it. So with that said, you can see something a little bit different here, that we're only, the data we're seeing is only, just a second quarter here, really through April, just past that. And you can see this little flat lines happening. This is the thing that I'm noticing that's not happened in the last few years. We saw this spring market come to an abrupt, kind of, just flatline, I guess, kind of abrupt in April. Usually this happens in June. This is really early for Columbus markets, 2 months ahead of schedule, which means to me that the Columbus, spring market is not as crazy as it has been in the past. So for you buyers out there that are looking to buy, that's a positive thing for you. And sellers, you got to be aware of this, that you're not going to, we're not seeing 10 to 20 offers per house, even if it is great. We're seeing, a handful on the really good ones. And we're seeing houses sometimes sit even in the spring market here. Now, you can still get top dollar if you position it right. You just got to be willing to do that. You have to have a strategy more so than you did in the last few years. And so, with that said, you can see the numbers here. We see that there's, a little bit more closed sales happening. Very, very, small change here, $100, $100 more homes essentially closing, which, 3% increase in contracts is actually a little higher as well. And obviously, as consumers, that really doesn't make a huge difference to you. But these numbers are historically low and still, so these are really low numbers. And so even though they're on the rise, they're still, such low numbers compared to what we've seen, and we've seen population growth. So it's the same kind of numbers we've seen in 2015, which was one of the lowest we've seen. And so we're seeing it on the low end, and we're just seeing a higher population. So that's just showing that even though there's more people in Columbus, there's still just as many and not fewer homes being sold than there has been in the last 10 years. So average price has gone up a little bit. Median sales is actually that's where they were seeing that flat line. Or median sales are slowed down big time here. And in 2000, or sorry, an average price per square foot's up a little bit. So you've seen overall throughout the year, we've seen modest growth, which is good, it's healthy, a little slower than the national, the average throughout history, but we've seen such, such extensive growth in the last, 5 years that we're kind of coming to that point where we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown overall. But nationally, this is something that we're seeing numbers look much worse than this nationally in some areas where we're seeing negative numbers in a lot of places. So Columbus is still outperforming a lot of the national areas and markets. So that's something to be, if you own a home, that's something to be grateful for. Otherwise, if you're a buyer, it's also nice to know that numbers aren't getting so out of control that prices are starting to slow down a little bit in some areas. Now, this is where, again, if you watch my other videos, you need to know the area you're looking to buy in. If you're looking to buy in, in the city in certain areas, numbers are looking, not as great as this. The numbers are actually going backwards. In some areas, they're going forward, even, double digits. So you got to know where you're getting into and how competitive that area is. And one of the best ways to know that is the month supply of inventory. Now, this is obviously all of Columbus. And so you need to look at month supply of inventory. Is that going up or down in the area you're looking at? Is it flat? Is it staying the same? So that's going to show you how, is the market on the, advantaging towards the buyer side or the seller side? And so that's where we got to kind of look at that. So otherwise, when we look at this, other numbers to consider, original price received, list price received, we're seeing those essentially flatline, seeing that. But I want to kind of harp on this idea that we're seeing numbers flatline here. And what I always say is, as long as you're seeing year over year numbers positive, you're not gonna, that's what we're looking at. We're seeing positive year over year numbers. The market's going forward. You see every year that if we look at this data again, this chart, we see every year that numbers go up, they come down on a monthly basis. We always typically peak in June and you got to think it's not just June, it's May, April, the month. So it's a month behind typically the data because it's the house list and it takes about 30 days to close on average. Or I can tell you on average takes 32 days to close on average. So therefore, go 32 days back, that's when the peak market is. And not necessarily just when this mountain peaks, it's when it's 30 days prior to that. So April really is kind of your best month historically to list. But we're seeing here that April is like flatline. This is a new thing that we're not seeing in the last 10 years here. But even going back further, if I had this chart kept going, we see the kind of the same thing where it doesn't really flatline typically till summer. And so we're seeing an early spring market kind of flatline. And here's what I want to tell you is that we did not get above last year's numbers. This is the thing that I have not seen. We were close a couple years ago, but we did not get above last year's peak market, which means to me we may see year over year numbers go backwards here in the next few months, kind of predicting what's going to happen in the next few months, that we actually may see numbers come in lower month over month for the first time consistently for the next few months, even the next 6 months to a year. we may see those numbers look, either flatlining or negative. And so that's where if you're looking to sell or buy, this is data you need to know that now may be a good time to get in my opinion, to buy because sellers are going to expect this number to go up. Sellers are going to expect this number. They always do this time of year. They expect the market, these numbers to continue to go up and to the right. And if you're a savvy buyer, you're going to know that's not the case. Those houses are not going to sell when they overprice them, and you can come in and negotiate them down. In fact, that's what I'm seeing. Another stat that I'm seeing is showing that the median price of the new list homes, this is a fascinating stat here. Median list price of new listings is 354,000, and that's up. But the funny part is that the median list price time of sale is the same as last month. So even though we're seeing prices go up, we're seeing, if you look back in April, I don't know if I have it here, I can go back. If not, it's May of 24. Let's go back to April. Let me show this number for you. Let me pull up the stats. I can tell you, but I want to show you. I always like to show you. So if we go back to, sorry, March of 24, you're going to see this number 320 is the median price of time of sale. And we can see here median price of time of sale. That's sorry, that's May of 24. We want, I was say I was wrong there. So lost a spot here. May of 24, June of 24. We want March of 24. I think it's over here. My face is in the way. There we go. Bear with me. So let's do that again. So that's April of 25, 319. May of 25 is March of 325 is 320. So it's actually just $1,000 higher last month. So this number has actually come down. The median sale price, the time of closing has come down since last month. And that's a big deal because that means that even though prices are higher on paper on the market, when people are listing, they're actually selling for less. And so that means more negotiations are taking place. So that means you need a good agent that's going to help you understand this and help you negotiate a price that houses that are, these are houses that need work, need condition, that don't have offers on them. You can negotiate these houses down. So keep that in mind. You need to have a strategy as a buyer now, just as much as you do as a seller, to get you a good offer, and as a seller to get you the top dollar still, not to be in that position where you're getting negotiated down and stuff like that. So anyways, back to April. So that's something I'm seeing. That's the biggest thing that I've not seen. Again, we'll see where this data goes. We'll see if this is a blip in the map. We'll see if this is just a little flat and then come up. But I think maybe we'll see a little bit higher rise next month. But I don't think we'll get ahead of that June market we saw last year. I don't think. I think I have it pulled up here. June of 24, we saw average price up to 384 and 334, and we are sitting right now at 374, 320. Wait, yeah, 385 in June 20. Where's June? 384 in June, 385 in May. So really May was the peak market last year. 385 in May. We're seeing 374. So we need to get up about a little over $10,000 on average price to get above that. Median price we need to get to 330, and we are at 320. So again, both 10K on both those numbers. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think it will, and I think we'll see some negative numbers when it comes to June, July, August this year, and then going into the fall. If rates and interest rates are going to be the biggest factor on this, and one of the best things to do is go to Mortgage News Daily. Is going to show you where things are here. That's one of my favorite websites, just to kind of track on a daily basis of where the mortgage rates are going. They've been pretty steadily in that 7 range as a whole. And so you can kind of see here 30-year is, they tell you if it's going up or down. It's very, pretty much flat line today. You see the chart here. If rates come down, obviously the prices will continue to go up as buyers going to enter the market. But if they stay the same, which I mean, everyone's predicting kind of the same or up, in some ways, that I think the housing market's going to kind of start flatlining here again. And we're going to see those numbers kind of stagnate. And so as a buyer, this is a great opportunity for you. If you're like, hey, I'm tired of the bidding wars. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to have to, continue to pay more than what it's looking at. It's great. And it's also, I would tell you as a buyer, it allows you to be patient. It allows you to continue to save money knowing that prices aren't going up by 10 to 15, 20% year over year, and you're going to miss out on that appreciation if you don't buy now. So that's what's nice about it. It allows people to be a little more relaxed, not crazy. And so waiting for the right house. And we're seeing that out there. Buyers are being picky right now. And so as a seller, you got to understand that they're being really picky, that we're getting plenty of showings. Buyers are still looking. There's people out there that want to buy that are just waiting for the right house at the right price. So just to recap, yeah, it's the fundamentals are so important right now. Understanding location, condition, and market timing is really vital, and you need to have a good strategy to get top dollar and to get the right house if you're looking to buy. So if you need those things, if you want to learn more about that, I'm happy to have those individual conversations to help you understand your individual area you're looking at, to help you win either the deal or get the most money for your home. Reach out to me directly. Happy to have that conversation. See you next time.